Hello, I'm TAP-G.
And I'm SurferClock.
And welcome to What's the Attraction? Where our work is your vacation. Walt Disney World. The granddaddy mamma jamma of theme parks.
So big.
So majestic.
So magical.
So... Holy smoo! Would you look at these prices? I could get minor surgery for less than a trip to Disney World.
Preaching to the choir, amigo.
What are we even paying for?
Are you asking if we're paying for cast member wages, basic maintenance, etc., or what you're getting out of it?
Rides with malfunctioning parts, food that's gotten less flavorful, whole parks with fewer rides.
Well, that's kind of harsh.
Especially considering 2 of their parks are so broken it'll take years to fix them.
What? Which ones? Hollywood Studios? Well, that's not really fair. I mean, they are fixing it with the Star Wars and the Toy Story areas.
Yeah, that's true.
What's the other one?
Epcot.
Epcot? You consider it broken? Why? You don't mean just all the empty space it has, do you?
Well, yeah, but that's not the reason. It's outdated, mired in the past, disjointed in theming, and altogether unfocused.
You're gonna have to walk our listeners through this. I mean, I'm pretty sure I know what you mean, but they may not.
Fine, I'll play. In order to get to my point, we need to look at Epcot in 3 phases. What Walt envisioned, what it opened as, and what it currently is.
Walt Disney wanted Epcot to be a living, functioning community. In fact, Epcot was the point of building the Florida property, with an East Coast Disneyland on the back burner. Walt fastidiously researched city development proposals and sought to eliminate urban blight. He developed an idea, an experimental prototype community of tomorrow, if you will. In other words, people were meant to live, work, and play in this futuristic utopia.
When Walt died, the dream died with him. His brother Roy pushed through the Magic Kingdom since it proved profitable in California. Years later, when they were looking for more projects, they stumbled upon the Epcot idea. But because they lacked the ambition, and the money, and the know-how to build a community, they instead built a theme park based on Walt's passions of technology in the future and global cultures. So by 1982, when the park opened, it was a bunch of corporate-funded and corporate-sponsored rides that, due to technological aspect infused with the company's respective brands, had an educational slant. Exxon wanted to teach the public how we got oil. General Motors wanted to show how we developed modern transportation. Kraft wanted to showcase nutrition. It was the first non-Magic Kingdom park that Disney built, complete with Disney-quality rides, but Disney characters or merchandise? Not a single one. The rationale being they belonged at the Magic Kingdom.
Now, the thing to remember is that Epcot suffered for several years because of its lack of the Disney branding and bland aspect. Michael Eisner came in 1984 and worked tirelessly to infuse life into a very dull, very boring park. He brought in Disney characters almost immediately and added numerous rides. But the first thrill ride wouldn't come into the scene until 1999 with Test Track. Then in 2003, Mission Space. Then in 2005, Soarin'. Today, those are the only 3 thrill rides in the park. Disney characters have a much stronger presence in the parks, from the meet and greets to attractions like Circle of Life, Grand Fiesta Tour, The Seas with Nemo and Friends, or Frozen Ever After.
And yet those who got mad at Frozen coming into Epcot because the park isn't supposed to have Disney characters clearly hasn't been paying attention.
Bottom line, Epcot, from how Walt pictured it, is different from how it opened, which is different from what it is now. So, why are you asking if it's broken?
Future World was, at one point, a pseudo-World's Fair. In the grand tradition of World's Fairs, Walt would introduce new technology. That's a great and noble cause, showcasing new ideas and inventions for the betterment of the world. The problem? It's barely enough to concede a rive off of. Now, of course the Imagineers, to give credit where credit's due, are very clever, very smart people. They are paid to design the world's coolest rides. But how much can you really do in making a fun ride showcasing how cool new technology can be?
Well, it's tough when you have to play by the rules of the company who's sponsoring. They kind of call the shots.
You see the problem.
So the saving grace that enabled Epcot being built in the first place was now hindering it? Is that what you're saying?
Right.
Now, hold on a second. Look at Test Track. It was owned by Chevrolet and taught us the importance of automobile safety and introduced us to the fastest ride on Disney property. That was a good mix of fun and education. And when its parent company, General Motors, took over the reimagining in 2012, its focus shifted into efficiency, power, and control. These are key ideas that are critical in auto development and enable kids to design and test their own cars. You have to admit, For all its weak theming, that's all important and necessary.
Fine, let's call Test Track the exception that proves the rule. Try Universe of Energy instead. While you can certainly walk away from Test Track bearing the knowledge that was imperative to the success of your design, Ellen's Energy Adventure doesn't. It's funny, but its jokes rarely tie into the subject at hand. What's worse is considering how dated it is. From statistics 20 years old to no real promotion of greener options left over from its days when it was sponsored by Exxon.
Now that you say dated, I'm suddenly reminded of the old Journey into Imagination ride. It once promoted the magic of imagination, but devolved into a more scientific stance. Then it devolved even further into the current form, which is neither scientific nor magical.
Or still, its neighbor. Remember Captain EO turning into Honey, I Shrunk the Audience? Two kinds of science-y shows. Then back to EO because Michael Jackson died. Now, a Pixar short film festival. How that ties into the notion of future world, I'm at a loss.
And the land. Kitchen Cabaret, about nutrition. Symbiosis was about the relationship between humans and Earth. And Listen to the Land. At least the latter had remained fairly consistent, name and live narrator notwithstanding. Circle of Life, like we said earlier, had the audacity to put Disney characters in Epcot. Soarin', while no doubt awesome, isn't educational or about technology or the future.
The seas is fine, but it doesn't focus on exploring the oceans as much as it just shows how cool they are because Nemo and Dory live there, unlike its previous incarnation.
Only Spaceship Earth, Interventions, and Living with the Land still embody the original spirit as educational, yet they lag in popularity because they're not as thrilling or exciting as Soarin' or Test Track.
Right. So we have this weird hodgepodge of miscellaneous themes with no cohesive tie-ins, and the World's Fair theme that was intended to showcase new technology, however feeble a concept it may be, floundered as sponsors came and went and Disney became more and more conservative as well as discerning in deciding what needed an upgrade and what didn't.
And then there's all the empty space.
Yup. Wonders of Life closed to become Convention Space. The Restaurant Odyssey became Convention Space. Millennium Central became World Showplace, aka Convention Space. All the upper-level boardroom executive suites made for the executives who sponsor the rides have mostly gone empty. Heck, Disney originally planned to add more countries to World Showcase, but there have been only 2, Morocco and Norway, added since opening day. Whatever the reasons why, Epcot has evolved into quite the specimen. Improvements have been made in several areas and others, not so much.
So, let's bring it back to your thesis. How broken is Epcot?
Well, the crazy thing is, broken in this instance is entirely subjective. Disney's target demographic is once-in-a-lifetime visitors. You could argue that this could condone laziness, but at least it's focused. These guests aren't going to stress over the lack of cohesive theming. Many people who've been to Epcot casually a few times will say, who cares? As long as I can ride Soarin' and Illuminations, it doesn't matter. And if that's the case, this episode is not intended for them. There's people like you and me who visit Epcot on a regular basis enough that we see the smaller flaws.
It has more to do with Disney's self-set standards. Long ago, Disney set forth the notion of cohesive theming and attention to detail. So when we see that standard not being met, we get frustrated. In this day and age, people on the internet can be less forgiving, especially if they, do podcasts on that sort of thing.
Basically what we're saying is Disney has fallen short on its own business model for its theme parks. As it stands, Future World of Epcot is going with the theme of future-ish, and yeah, it's definitely broken. Though it's not hopeless.
I should hope not.
There certainly are ways to keep Epcot as the intended perpetual World's Fair. It's far too late to become the community Walt planned. In any case, that's essentially what the town of Celebration was born out of. But there's plenty of ways for it to better itself. The tearjerker of 2015, the Academy Award-winning Pixar's Inside Out, bears a striking resemblance to the defunct Cranium Command attraction, and we fantasized the idea of a new attraction long after the movie came out. With today's focus on the importance of mental health, this opens up a whole realm of possibilities in terms of entertainment and education.
Ellen's Energy Adventure could find a greener sponsor and recreate the ride, showcasing more on renewable energy sources and put less focus on fossil fuels. just so long as they stay out of making comic books.
Maybe Interventions could utilize Hiro, Baymax, Honey Lemon, Gogo Tamago, Wasabi, and Fred in showcasing how awesome science is and how it can be used to shape our understanding of the world around us. Maybe promote STEM and get girls involved in the fields of science.
If Circle of Life is on its way out, as some reports indicate, maybe another health show could take its place. Yeah, since healthy eating has been so strongly stressed by society in the past several years. Just don't tell us how many calories are in a turkey leg. Sometimes knowledge isn't power.
None of these changes can happen overnight or without a large sum of cash. And that's the problem. Getting Disney to part with that much money is quite the task in and of itself. Hopefully after the Mouse House finishes tinkering with the even more defunct Hollywood studios, they'll turn their attention to Epcot and concentrate on turning Future World into a more cohesive narrative. And maybe we could, once again, look to the future with hope.
Well, what do you guys think? Is Epcot really that broken? If you have any ideas on how to fix it, just list them in the comments below. We want to see what you guys have to say.
After all,
there's a great, big, beautiful tomorrow, shining at the end of every day. There's a great, big, beautiful tomorrow, just a dream of